Welcome to Dear Future. Today we have a very special guest named Albert Bozesan on. He's a Munich-based writer, filmmaker, and AI workflow architect at Storybook Studios. With roots in Silicon Valley and a background in computer science and business at TU Munich, he bridges traditional filmcraft with cutting-edge generative AI. He's worked on very interesting projects like The Barrier, the AI-powered animated series Space Vets, and the hybrid horror short Daisy, directed by Peter Thorworth. Albert is also a TEDx speaker, an educator with Curious Refuge, and creator of the story development app Throughline. His work consistently argues for story first, AI second, using AI not as a spectacle, but as a production tool in service of emotion.
This idea that everything's been done before can be challenged.
I've been dreaming of a computer like this my whole life.
It really made me think more about how our brains work.
It's not coming from anywhere else. It's only coming from us.
Dear Future.
Thank you so much for being here, Albert. We're so excited to see you. Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm also very excited to talk to you.
Well, first and foremost, I would really love to know a little bit about how you came to be where you are at today. Starting with a very simple question that I ask many of our attendees here. What was the first experience of technology that you can remember growing up?
Oh, wow. That's a fantastic question. So I grew up between California and Germany, so there was a lot of back and forth in my family, a lot of traveling happening. And this was all before like portable DVD players were a thing or entertainment was readily available, especially for a kid. What my dad used to do is he'd actually load up my favorite shows like Bob the Builder and a bunch of German shows that your listeners probably don't know onto the videotapes that our camcorder used. So I would watch my favorite shows on the camera that we used to document like family events and travels and stuff. And I think in my kind of kid logic, that was a very early connection that things I enjoyed viewing were also things that I could make. And so I just basically the first technology that I experienced and loved was a camera, which is kind of very sappy as a filmmaker, but true.
That's so awesome. Well, so I actually want to do a little bit of a zoom into the future now. Can you tell me a little bit about how you live your life today? What do your days look like?
So today was actually surprisingly AI free, which I think is a nice way to get into it because it used to be, of course, always AI free. And I love getting up pretty early in the morning. I'm grateful when my body lets me do that because I'm not much of a morning person, but I like the time before my brain actually wakes up to get creative and note down ideas, maybe dreams I had, and just kind of file those away in my notes app. And those usually end up popping up years later and becoming bigger stories. Currently, I'm actually going through old notes of mine and getting a story off the ground, a kid's format. I'm not even sure if it's going to be a book or a series, visual or for reading, I don't know. And then I go to work. My day job is head of creative technology at Storybook Studios in Munich, where I build AI workflows and also generate a lot of the stuff. We're a small team, as are most AI production companies at the moment. And I turn scripts and ideas, either my own or for directors, both in Germany and internationally. I think you can already probably tell that I do all sorts of media stuff. So from anything involved with storytelling, visually, I wrote audio plays, I do some production, I do some tech stuff, and that's what I love to do. It's the variety. Storytelling plus technology consumes 24/7 of my life.
I love this. I also think that this is a fairly new concept for a lot of people in the world. You know, just a few years ago, this idea of an AI-powered workflow was quite foreign, quite strange to talk about. And I think what would be helpful is to get a sense of a little bit more detail around what that actually looks like. What is it that you are doing when translating a script, a story idea into a workflow? And what does that workflow look like?
I think one of the most important things people learn when they get into a creative job, especially one that involves narrative storytelling, whether that's fiction or nonfiction, I know you have a documentary background, but getting that structure, understanding, thankfully, that storytelling doesn't have to be reinvented from scratch every time. There are some structures that you can follow to convey whatever you want. So the originality is in that and not in how you tell it necessarily. So if I have an idea, it's usually a scene or a character, and then I go back to kind of the basics, right? The story circle, the beat sheet, like Blake Snyder's 12 Steps is very popular in Hollywood. And that ability to first in writing and then in a storyboard, like actually sketching something out is so fundamental before one even touches the actual technology, whether that's AI or traditional filmmaking, which is why most of our team at Storybook have a filmmaking background, a traditional filmmaking background with kind of the technical ability tacked on. So I do know a little bit of computer science. I did several semesters of programming, but I use that to serve the storytelling, build tools that I might need to help our team, help directors visually tell the story that they want.
Okay, so tell me about building tools, because this is also something that's a fairly new concept. When you're a cinematographer, as I wasn't building my own camera. But now we're in a new era of personalized software. You have codecs, you have vibe coding tools that allow you to build apps, and you also have systems that require sort of a node-based editing workflows. You are building mini machines. And so for you, what does the building of tools look like?
This is the interesting thing. When people haven't used AI much or not at all, which is still the case surprisingly a lot in creative industries, people think that you're always prompting an LLM or generating images or something. But a lot of what I do is using those tools to code pretty traditional software that, isn't AI powered. It was made with AI, but it just makes repeatable workflows for tasks that otherwise it wouldn't have been worth making software for. One of my tools, for example, Throughline, is a story planning app. There's no AI involved in the story planning itself, but in the building of this very specific idea I had in mind, which, isn't revolutionary, but I just wanted to make story planning feel like a card game. You're basically playing solitaire with your different characters or locations or story beats, and I didn't find an app that looked like that, that worked like that, and so over Christmas I built it and put it out into the world, and now filmmakers worldwide are using it, which is really, really cool. Or I'm using tools like After Effects, just kind of very classic, and writing extensions for it using Claude Code. So if I have a specific effect or series of effects that I'm adding to dozens of shots, but it's always very similar, I can easily code an extension now, which I would never have been able to do or it wouldn't have been worth spending the time to do. So that's one way of using AI that is still underestimated, I think.
This is awesome. And it really shows your computer science and film background connecting to one another. I am curious if you can take us back a little bit to sort of the first moments where you're living between Silicon Valley and entertainment felt like a bridge you were building. When did that intersection happen, and what inspired you to sort of be in this interstitial space?
I think the earliest connection to technology was my parents working in tech. My mom is actually a refugee from communist Romania who came to Germany in the 80s and had learned a lot of physics and math and is just a total genius at tech stuff already, and met my dad and actually gave him after school math help in high school. That's how they met originally. So then they both ended up going to California to work in AI early on in the 80s before that kind of fell asleep until the hardware caught up with the theory of it. But unlike them, I was always interested in making art and media and loved staying up and watching behind the scenes, as I know other guests of yours have as well. I never wanted to go to bed, and I just, after watching a movie, would stay on for another 2 hours and clicking through all the DVD extras. And I think my first sort of rebellion was convincing my parents that that was a plausible career as well. They were always kind of wary of that, but very supportive. Once I proved that I, had the kind of technical know-how and wasn't like being totally naive in that there is a business involved and self-promotion involved that one needs to do as much, if not more, as the actual art. And of course, I always wanted to go a little south. LA is where it's at. And only recently have I been lucky enough to do that, also thanks to AI. So the bridge continues to be built.
Wait, so are you not based in Munich anymore? You're in LA?
I wish. I am based in Munich right now, but although I wish, I would have the opportunity, but there are advantages to being in Europe right now in AI that I'm still very aware of and quite conscious of.
Well, that's actually one question I wanted to get into. A lot of folks who are artists in the EU have noted in the past some frustrations around challenges with AI, getting access to systems from other countries. I'm curious why that is and what that has done with you and for you.
Culturally, especially in Germany, and I can mostly speak for Germany, we have very, very high support from society and from the government as well in pursuing art for art's sake, which I think is very, very exciting, especially in AI filmmaking. So we can focus, I believe, a lot more than many Americans on making AI useful for everyone in a pipeline, everyone in a workflow. So we have actors who are excited about it. We have very public discussions without it immediately becoming an economic fight on it. So we have rigorous debate in Norway as well. Actually, I go a lot to Scandinavia, which is also a very exciting area for AI right now. And you'll have panels that include people from all walks of the film industry that are informed but polite to each other. I don't think we've had like any massive protests like LA has had. There are advantages to that as well, of course, but I do appreciate the tone of the discussion here and the ability to talk to local governments, state governments as well, about grants for AI as well. There's a lot of funding happening, public television, public networks investing in AI workflows.
That's amazing. I am curious what the general zeitgeist is, for lack of a better word, there. Do you sense that it is a similar debate as in the US, or are there different nuances to the conversation that we don't often hear about?
There's a very specific example, I think, that especially in America is almost never a topic: synchronization. So actual actors dubbing shows almost everything that comes from the States. There's a German version available where dozens of German actors, they didn't translate it, but they like dub over all the voices. And there's some big debate right now happening with, I think it was Netflix, who want these actors to sign away the rights to their voices to train AI models in the future. I think that's actually the most prominent, more negative discussion happening in Germany right now, which I haven't heard about anywhere else, especially in the States, because that's not really a thing that happens there. Generally, though, there is a lot more open talk about using these tools because we're honestly a much smaller market with much smaller budgets happening. So I think in one way it's easier to reach the top of the industry and work with smaller teams where everybody knows each other and exchange knowledge about this sort of topic. Like information disperses much more quickly, I think.
It's so interesting. I was born and raised in Morocco, and it's fascinating the ways in which the culture and society sort of debates issues and challenges, and spent some time in France, sort of in the culture of debate there. And then in the US, just the diversity of perspectives can get flattened. And I think what I have heard in some of the things you've written online, and also in your TED Talk, you argue that AI can make us more human. And I am curious, how do you feel about that now? What do you mean by that? Because I think it would be a helpful way to ground some of our discussion about your projects.
I continue to feel, and this is a completely personal opinion, that it's not a good thing generally to use AI to create the actual story of what we're doing, like actually writing the scripts out, coming up with story structures. It's great for researching things, building all that support structure, like I said, building your own software, and even generating images and video generally, as long as that's based on something a human thought through. And that's not for technical reasons. Brandon Sanderson, a fantastic fantasy author, said this recently in a talk that he believes technically it could be possible that an LLM will write better than him. But having written a book is not just a product. The actual book isn't just a product. It's a receipt of the journey you went through and the way you grew as a creator on the way to get there. And that's so much fun. That's humanly valuable beyond the actual profit of the product in the end, which is totally legitimate. I mean, I make a living creating things. So AI can make us more human if it takes some of those tasks that don't require that essence, for lack of a better word, that is good for us to experience while we work.
I love this idea of the receipt of the journey. And for you, as someone who works basically in the interstitial space between idea and execution, have there been any receipts of journeys that you have been particularly moved by in projects that you've been working on?
I think it's actually my educational projects for Curious Refuge specifically. I give their AI animation course, and seeing people who maybe otherwise haven't even been in media at all, learning storytelling and learning AI tools to express things, make projects for their kids or with their kids, which is even cooler, like tell stories, tell ideas that their son has had. Like a 4-year-old comes up with, hey, I'm going to do, this dragon in my room, and I go on adventures with him, and the dad being able to make an animated short about that, or even a series, and me having communicated the tools and the workflows to actually make that something special that can even be shared beyond the family, which I love seeing. And of course, on the complete other end of the spectrum, working with directors like Peter Torwart, who has made #1 hits on Netflix, not just in Germany, but internationally, coming to us with ideas that even someone in his position has not been able to get funding for, that he's excited about, he's almost giddy about, and immediately getting results thanks to AI, and us kind of being the conduit for that and the collaborators. I love bringing that energy out of people.
That's amazing and very inspiring. inspiring. Do you feel like there are lessons you have witnessed them learn that surprised you? I ask that because I often am in spaces as an educator, and the things I think are going to be challenges or problems, in fact, are not. And the things people latch onto as lessons that really stick with them are unexpected to me. And I'm curious if that has happened as well to you.
I've noticed a surprising difference between people. Like, I don't ever like categorizing people in like solid boxes because we're all a little bit of everything. But I have noticed a distinct general way of thinking between people. One are the results-oriented people. Like, usually these are directors and writers, even more so producers who look at the financial side, but they want to see a movie at the end. Like, it doesn't really matter how it was made oftentimes. And they want to get there quickly and get as close as possible to their vision, of course. And then there are people who are much more focused on the process itself. You know, not even deadlines necessarily. It's ready when it's ready. And they love picking up a pencil and sketching it out or painting. And the former are the most excited about AI, obviously, because it's like a tool that will usually get you somewhere quicker. And the others are usually horrified by it because it's doing something that they don't value at all, like efficiency and speed. And I totally understand that. But I am very much one of the former. I love being creative, especially in teams and interacting with people. But there's a reason I started my career in commercials. They're usually quicker than making a movie or a series. And so that was not something that I had encountered. And I'm trying to learn to enjoy the actual process of creating more.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I'm only interested in this nuance of adding friction to the creative process as a way to enjoy and deepen one's relationship with the work you're making. And so I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you add friction to your process and sort of are engaged in the creative process and what that looks like in your collaboration with AI.
In our team at Storybook, we don't ban AI in the first steps of creation, but we almost should because it's so easy to get prompting and create incredible looking stills. And those are usually in the end product, at least, completely useless. I need to force myself to just sit down with a pen and paper or a notebook, or honestly, the Notes app is fine, but like just really try to de-tech your thoughts first and figure out what your actual goal is. That's friction, right? There's no more friction than sitting in front of an empty piece of paper. There've been studies done. Most adults are afraid of that. Like
the terror of the blank page.
Yes.
It's unavoidable.
It's so rough. And I think it's fair to use an LLM to maybe skip that first moment. Like, you can literally just toss your ideas into Claude and say, hey, ask me 10 questions about this project so I can figure out what it actually is. That's cool. But then drop it, just figure it out yourself first.
Is there anything in the projects you've been working on and have sort of taken to the ends of executing, making the project? You've worked on several different things. The Barrier, Space Vets, Des and Beth, Daisy. Some of them have been hybrid production. Some of them have been sort of very much AI films. Is there anything surprising to you in the process of making those films and anything that are like an important memory about the creation of those things?
Absolutely. For Daisy, something that really surprised me was how much the actors loved the workflow we chose for that. So for Daisy, it's a hybrid production in that we motion captured actors' faces. So we recorded it in our normal office. Like, we just asked everybody outside of our team, because we share the facility with a traditional production company, to go home for the day and just ran loose in it. Everybody had these little headsets on, and the director was jumping over couches and saying, okay, that's a rock you have to climb over. And it was amazing. And instead of predefining the shots and the position of the camera specifically, we recorded it more like a piece of theater. So they acted out the entire short several times in a row. And actors absolutely love that. They love the context, like the continuity of it, and can build on each other's work. And it sounds so obvious, but that's not how most movies are made.
Right.
Maybe sitcoms, like multi-camera setups, but most Hollywood productions are tiny little pieces. You stop the camera, you start the camera, you reset lights. That was not something that I expected AI to break through. And neither did they, honestly. That's the main feedback they had to us, how cool that part was.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I do feel like I've been going to more theater. I've been really interested and excited about more immersive productions that allow me to like live in a story that isn't just pixels on a screen. As you can imagine, I see a lot of those every day. And so I've been really craving the sort of the natural, bare performance of a human being interacting with another human being on stage and what that looks and feels like. And I guess for you, how do you see that playing into the world of AI moving forward? Do you see that as synchronous? Do you see that as something that there's a way for these things to sort of coexist in a space and bring new life to production? Or does it feel a little bit like a one-time lovely experience that might not be experienced again?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy. It's one of the most raw forms of experiencing someone live. With others, it's one person with a microphone usually. And I totally understand wanting to go to a live showing of that rather than to a movie theater or experiencing something at home just watching YouTube. I don't think it's going to be this big like anti-AI reaction. People say there might be a movement to more real stuff in response to AI. And yeah, specifically to like the low-end AI stuff where everybody can prompt something that looks super high-end, but that's going to permeate all of media. I don't think that's going to mean, oh, there's going to be real-life performance and slop, right? I think that's also a signal to visual effects to like not have cities be destroyed in every action movie. We've seen that a million times. Like everything, every piece of culture is going to have to become much more human in a way. It's like whatever that means for that specific medium. But yeah, I mean, I hope that generally trends, not just AI, but like, home office becoming more of a thing will lead to more spaces opening up in cities, more actual human activities coming into being.
For you, what is the kind of content you like to inspire yourself with as you feed your own imagination and connect with the sources of wisdom and story to permeate your work?
I need to find more of that, definitely. It's very easy in this space to just become completely overwhelmed with updates, and you have to use this tool. You have to go get access to CDance 2.0 and, make a Chinese phone number and log in here. And I'm not as active as many in that space, so I'm kind of doing that on purpose already. But I enjoy traveling, specifically with my social media very much off. I mean, I just got back from my honeymoon, which was excellent for that.
Congratulations!
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We love
It
love.
was beautiful. Yes, just spending time with, both people you've never met before and loved ones at the same time, ideally, and figuring out what people who very much lead lives that are totally different from you think of the world, think about both their own lives, but also, international happenings. I mean, I often realize, okay, AI is not permeating the whole world. That's very much a bubble we're in. It's a big bubble, but people in Costa Rica, they're surfing and hanging out at a wildlife refuge and having a great time without AI.
Totally, totally. I want to get into some format questions because we haven't covered some of the formats that you've been playing with. I'm very interested in your previously on micro format. And I'm curious, why build this 30 to 60 second format, sort of trailer format that feels complete? Why build on that?
The reason we did previously on was I came to work after Christmas and told my team that I just experienced my father-in-law consuming the entirety of the series Yellowstone in recap segments on YouTube. He wasn't watching episodes. He was watching like 1 minute per episode each, made by fans, I assume, or possibly automated by people on YouTube with like an AI narrator just explaining what happened on that episode. And he was happy. He was thoroughly entertained. So I was like, we got to do something like this. Like, why are we bothering making whole movies and series if this is a storytelling structure that people enjoy? Honestly, I think it kind of failed because people keep thinking there's more, like they are summaries of longer episodes. But no, the whole point is that it's episodes told as if there were more, but there aren't. A little too thought around a corner creatively, I think. But we were honestly, the industry is catching up with us in many ways with the whole verticals format, right? It's basically a vertical microdrama before that really exploded. Obviously, it was a thing, but right now I think we could return to that and try again because it's such a good way of conveying storytelling ideas that might not be worth pursuing at the moment budgetarily. Like I came up with a show that I think like 5 people think is awesome. And for them, it was worth making, right? It took me like 2 weeks to make a whole season of it. That's awesome. And there are lots of stories out there like that.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, I mean, do you think that audiences' attention spans are actually changing, or is it storytelling that's adapting? It can feel a bit like chicken or the egg, but which one do you feel like is a primary driver? It's that like there's new storytelling mediums that people are trying, and therefore audiences are adapting to that, sort of social apps that are gearing people more towards like attention spans shortening because they're used to the TikTok format. Where do you think some of the drivers of behavior are around shorter content?
I don't believe as much in like audience segments as a lot of Hollywood studios do, where they feel like they can put people in very specific drawers and that those are different people. Because I mean, all of us, I think we know how to, we consume a ton of TikTok and Reels and also go to the movies to watch Weapons. You know, it's the same people are consuming these very different things. So there's space for everything. And there can be high quality in all of these formats. I mean, I kind of laughed when I first saw my first like vertical microdrama soap opera and showed it to my dad, and he like kind of just smirked and said, you know, one day very soon we're going to start hearing about one of these that everybody has to see. You know, some friend is going to come to us and say, hey, yeah, I know you laughed about Real Shorts, but Mormon Werewolf Billionaire, there's something to it. And I think he's right. We're going to have the Breaking Bad of microdramas sooner rather than later.
Okay, if you had a microdrama that you would be addicted to, what would be your guilty pleasure microdrama? What's the title? Is it Mormon Werewolf Demon Hunter?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. I am a sucker for ideas like that. Like, I love Kung Fury. I can't wait for like the long movie version of that to come. Just these kind of
Wait,
silly
tell me about
formats.
Kung Fury. What's Kung Fury?
It's incredible. It's incredible. It was this Indiegogo like Kickstarter project from I think over 10 years ago. A Swedish YouTuber shot an entire 80s homage to action movies in his basement in front of a green screen. And it was incredible. It was 30 minutes long. And then he convinced like Michael Fassbender, Arnold Schwarzenegger to star in the feature film version of it, like the sequel. And the whole thing was shot. It was financed, and it's like in legal limbo that I don't understand. But that thing is out there, and we need to get it released because I need to know how the story continues.
Wow. I just want the documentary of this, which is The Legend of Kung Fury, the making of the film that never got, that never came out.
Yeah, good idea.
I think you should steal it. It's time. I also want to talk a little bit about kids animation, because I think this is a very interesting space. You worked on a film, Space Vets. There's sort of two directions we can go. One is just sort of the economics of children's content and how AI shifts that. But also if you feel like AI native studios like yours could disrupt some of these traditional animation pipelines. Either way, you can take it in any direction.
Children's animation is a huge topic. And to be honest, I'm new to it. I did a lot of children's radio plays, which is a big deal in Germany specifically. So as kids, we all listen to audio tapes, which does, in a storytelling way, lend itself to doing animation. But of course, animation is incredibly expensive to do in any medium. It doesn't matter like what the style is. And it's a very, very intense industry. Like there are events, like I've gone to licensing conventions. Everybody has what they claim is the next Paw Patrol. There's a ton of money to be made in merchandising, like way more than in adult television. So it's a huge business. And of course, everybody wants to make it more cheaply. So AI is kind of an obvious way to go there. When we made Space Vet, we had to invent a new workflow because the video models weren't there yet at all. There was no lip syncing tool that like directly created the shots with the lip sync, which is available now. So we recorded the actors, made 3D models using the available AI tools at the time, prompted some of the movement, but like as 3D information, and rendered the thing in Blender 3D, like an open source traditional 3D tool. So it was this wild mix of plugging in AI tools where they were ready into traditional tool sets and somehow managing to do this whole thing, this pilot episode, including all designs, the script and everything in like 60 days in a tiny team. So that's why Space Vets kind of blew up the AI internet specifically. The animation people weren't that impressed.
I can imagine. They're like, what, this thing you did in 60 days? What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. They didn't believe us fully. Like that was why they weren't impressed. It was so ridiculous because 3D modeling at the time, and even now, of course, and rigging and all that stuff, forget about the animating part. There's no way. It takes years to make a traditional animated show. And now the whole workflow can go straight in the trash. We've developed a complete new one. We did a test recently if we could like replicate a Space Vet scene with modern tools, and we could have done the whole episode in like 4 days, if maybe exaggerated, but like it's crazy how far the technology has come, which is kind of a problem if you're thinking the old way, because the way you build an animation studio classically is you pick the tools, you maybe even decide which versions of the tools you're going to stick with for the duration of the season, and teach all your artists how to do this and run it through again and again for every episode. With AI, you need to develop a way to like plug in the new tools in production, because they might make you twice as fast to 10 times as fast. And that's not workable if you're running a studio the old way. So I'm not surprised people are struggling, despite maybe even attempting to use the AI tools, because they don't fit.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people that are like, how do we do it? I'm curious, with the knowledge you can impart upon audiences around the world, how were you able to do this, and how do you structure it on your team right now?
We're in an AI production right now that needs to withstand the like quality control of studios, because one needs to be able to do that in order to work for streaming services, work for networks. They want stuff that looks like the content they have. And the most essential piece is pipeline management. As boring as it sounds, you need the structure. And I'm happy to get concrete on which tools. I mean, obviously Cdance 2.0 is going to be an incredible boon to everything we do. Kling is great. Google Nano Banana is just excellent. But if you have a team of AI artists and filmmakers who have to be self-taught, like, I mean, Curious Refuge is relatively new, but, you know, one needs to piece this information together on YouTube and Reddit and stuff. They are not used to working in big teams and delivering shots and looking at a list of shots. And if you have like 600 shots for a 20-minute episode of something, there's a lot of back-end work and human work to be done to make sure the style is the same and shots fit together and sequences fit together and they're being edited together quickly enough. So anybody who's interested in this space, learn that part of it. And I promise it's fun once you get into it.
Don't be scared, children. Don't be afraid. Just walk towards the spreadsheet. What makes a good AI artist, right? Like, so let's say there's someone
Great
listening
question.
who's like, I want to work on a set like this. What do I do? What advice would you give them for becoming the kind of AI artist that would be able to survive in a team delivering something at a studio level?
Develop taste. Really, like that's the
I
number
know,
one.
I know.
And I don't claim to have great taste, but I have acceptable taste in order to have this job. Like, just really know what you enjoy. I mean, it's pretty easy. You think about what you like watching, and then don't just enjoy it, but think about what parts of it. Like, how's the light set? You know, if you're lucky enough to have a film school nearby, go to the talks. They have public talks usually. Like, I saw Roger Deakins at the local film school. He'll tell you this information is out there on what looks good in film. And then, of course, the technical aspect. How do you actually prompt that? And I think that's just rote practice. Like, there's no prompt structure that's going to click for you. It's just using all the different models that are available. And being willing to update all the time.
Yeah. This is something that I talk to a lot of directors about, because they're like, oh, well, I just need to know how to prompt and prompt engineering. And oftentimes that is just not it. And so can we talk a little bit about prompting as someone who spends a lot of their time finding ways to translate between the ephemeral mist of an idea, you know, the heartbeat of a story, into like a clear paragraph of text, or even a few lines of text that you send to a model, and in some ways hope and pray that it will understand what it is that you're trying to get across. You know, you do your Hail Mary and you're like, please God, let me just give me the thing that I want. Sometimes you get a generation that you hate, and then other times you want to kiss the screen and you're like, you genius, you know? And so I'm wondering, from someone who spends a lot of their time in that, the mundane and annoying and frustrating process of trying to translate to a machine, do you have tips? Do you have perspectives on how to prompt more effectively?
I wish I could credit who said this. I don't remember, unfortunately, but prompting an AI model at this stage is like having an incredible, like, Marvel level movie set available to you, but the only way to communicate with the team is via walkie-talkie to the production assistant on his first day. That's prompting. And like, sometimes people like that have incredible ideas. Like, you will get great shots out of it. But sometimes you need to remember, like, this person doesn't necessarily speak the language of film quite yet, quite the way you do. And you got to be able to help out, like maybe even touch Photoshop when you get the results, like be able to paint in some stuff. Give references, I think, is one of the greatest tips. Like, it's not text to image. It's definitely not text to video for anything more than like memes, which are hilarious, and that totally can be a thing. But be ready to grab your smartphone, have a friend take a picture of you posing the way you want your character to pose. That's going to be quicker than trying to describe a human body posing via text. That's the miracle of multimodal models, which were not available when we started this whole journey. So throw everything in the kitchen sink at it, and maybe even set a limit to how many generations you're willing to like send out with the same exact settings. Because I see a lot of people just kind of hitting generate for like 50 images. Be ready to change your approach a lot and be very quick and flexible in getting your results.
I'm hearing adaptable, nimble, willing to change, willing to adapt. This is good.
Everything. Yeah.
Anything else? There's one more in there.
Yes. I very strongly recommend something that Nick Cleverov says in a lot of his talks. So from Native Foreign, he's working on critters, and it's the like W prompting method. I should have noted this down. It's been a while since I did the course, but it's answering W questions. So what is it? Who is doing what? Where? In what way? That sort of thing. Why? Why is the emotional part that's essential? What's the vibe, which is kind of something that a lot of like very like visual effects people, technical people hate. Like, no, I need to know like where does this pixel go? No, that's not how AI works. And the whole point of that exercise, which is why I'm honestly like I'm a little more flexible with it than I teach, because students usually need a little more structure than when you're like in the fire of production, is to give yourself a guideline to edit your prompts and go through with a similar structure in every image so you yourself don't get lost. Like, prompt engineering is as much making repeatable templates for yourself as it is communicating with the AI, because we're quite similar that way. You know, obviously it was trained on our own data, so give yourself an easy time is the best tip I can give anybody.
I love it. It sounds like it's also giving yourself a lot of patience and a lot of, compassion, so that in the process you are tweaking, you're translating, or taking time with the problem rather than feeling like you need to solve it overnight and be a machine. Being a human in the loop, I think, also means being a part of the messy figuring it out. And oftentimes what I find is my mind will go to wanting to become an LLM of sorts. Like, I want a quick answer to something, and really my job is to live in this very messy, unknown space in which the problem is yet undefined, and the way we are trying to relate to it feels unknown and porous. And how can we really show up with a degree of like self-respect and compassion through the process so that it doesn't feel so scary for us to just stay in that unknown space for a little bit longer?
Yeah. AI has the danger of instant manifestation. There's a gambling aspect to it as well that we need to be aware of. I mean, I've actually known people to disappear in AI generations, and I'm like not even kidding that it's almost dangerous in a way if you want to have an actual creative product to share with people at the end, to make sure you step back and remind yourself constantly, what am I actually telling here? Or am I possibly just looking at pretty pictures at this point? Is this something that actually fits together?
Totally. I love that. I love that orientation, to just not get so sucked in to the vortex, to the gravity of the gambling sort of slot machine. Okay, I want to do a rapid fire round right before we end. Short answers only. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
One AI tool you can't live without.
Nano Banana Pro.
One AI tool you have abandoned.
3D model generation in general.
AI is better at blank than humans.
I was going to say speed. It's obvious. Boring, but obvious.
Humans are still better at blank than AI.
Taste and context.
The next big unlock in AI filmmaking will be
the editing, like actually cutting together multiple shots that fit together.
the biggest overhyped feature right now is
Open claw. I don't get it.
amazing. Okay, great. Finish the sentence. Dear future blank. What would you say?
Dear future, technology has always given us more good than bad, so trust the process.
What a note to end on. Albert, it has been such a pleasure to talk with you today. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for grounding us in both practical knowledge, but also a very rounded perspective of the filmmaking process, a very nutrient-dense experience of telling stories. And I've really, really appreciated your even sobriety around some parts of the process and how boring it can be. And I hope that folks that are listening to this can feel the ways in which this is an opportunity to not just lean on the frictionless speed of AI to tell your stories, but as an opportunity to spend time in the messy middle, spend time in the story, to be with the boring parts so that the story can really shine and be beautiful and really land later on. For anyone who's interested, please look at Albert Bozesan's work. Please check out the projects that he's worked on, The Barrier, Space Vets, Des and Beth, and Daisy, and also look up his story development app Throughline, which shows story structure as a card game, which is very exciting, as well as his work on Curious Refuge, the AI education platform for telling stories with AI. Until next time, we hope that you have a wonderful present leading into your own future, and we look forward to joining you in the future next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Dear future.